And a shutdown is not the answer, obviously. I mean, it's hard for us here in the midst of this potential shutdown to be talking about how much we can do, because we don't know if government is going to be able to do anything if by tomorrow night or Saturday the government shut down. That's certainly not, it's not easy for us to say to you that we're going to help when we don't even know if the government's going to be open. So I guess because if the government shuts down, is a serious question about what we're actually going to do.
What was the decision-making process in not de-energizing or shutting the power off in this area, which already, because of the invasive plants, because of the wooden poles, because the wires, the lines weren't insulated, already was at risk? These were all risks that were known. What was the decision-making process not to de-energize or turn the power off on these lines during that critical period?
So in 2019, our teams, understanding what happened in...
And I appreciate the history. What I'm trying to figure out is on that morning, what was your strategy? And were there people who were awake all night monitoring this storm to see what we could do? What's going on? Tell us and the American people what was going on that morning and why you didn't de-energize earlier.
Absolutely. I'm trying to explain to you why we didn't...
Well, I understand you're going to the process. I'm trying to figure out what happened that day, back in August.
Yeah, so I'm trying to answer your question about why we didn't de-energize.
Okay.
Those decisions were made years before as part of a plan. So in 2019, our team started developing a wildfire mitigation plan. And based on what they had learned of the plans in California, including their preemptive shutoff programs, they determined...
That would be the PSPS. Okay.
PSPS, that wasn't the appropriate fit for Hawaii. Hawaii is very unique, and through that process, that's the determination that was made, and we had other protocols in place when there's high winds. So when you're asking why didn't we shut off the power, that is not our protocol to do that.
All right, let's stop right there.
Okay.
Going forward, are you re-examining that? Are you looking at doing the public safety power shutoff programs? Are you looking at that now? And are you re-examining your protocols because they didn't work?
We are absolutely re-examining our protocols. I want to make it absolutely clear that the afternoon fire, the cause of that fire has not yet been determined.
And I heard your testimony, and I just want to confirm, you never re-energized your power lines once you shut them down. Is that correct?
That's right.
And
A little bit before 7 a.m., our lines were not re-energized.
These warnings that action was going to be taken immediately.
Yeah, so the protocols on the books for many years was to disable a setting on our system that automatically recloses a circuit if there's a fault. Meaning that if there's a fault indicated on the line, that it won't re-energize. The breaker will open and then it won't re-energize.
And then how quickly after you received the warning did you act to do that?
I don't know the exact time. I believe the warning, and we can subject to check, I believe the warning happened overnight, and by the morning that those protocols were put into place. But we can get that for you, those details.
Mr. Sunchin, does HECO have the authority to proactively de-energize its lines in response to weather conditions?
Yes, they do.
When did HECO first become aware that one of its power lines was down in Lahaina?
I'm trying to remember when the first one was down, and I can't recall right now. I mean, there was a lot happening from August 7th to August 8th.
When did you receive notice?
Basically, in the afternoon of the 8th, when HECO informed us that they activated their incident management team.
So our vegetation management is around our lines. It does not give us the right, it is not a stated right to take care of the grass under our lines on private property. And so that is an issue that I think we all in our state need to be looking at, given what happened on August 8th. And we all, I think, agree that that's a critical issue for everyone to be looking at.
Social media generated by China and other malicious actors who were actually saying that there was, it was caused by government space lasers, discouraging some people from dealing with FEMA, and that kind of misinformation, disinformation that was being circulated. How shameful is that?
It is very distracting, and it creates divide in the community. In a time where people need to come together and support the community, it does create noise. And we would gather every morning in Maui in a big circle at 7 a.m. before the crews went out. And I remember having to tell them, stay focused on your work, be safe, don't let all of that noise in social media distract you and bother you, because we have work to do and we need to stay focused on serving our community.
Is there ever any option to bury these delivery lines?
The standard is on Maui is for lines to be overhead. A customer can opt to have it undergrounded. They have to pay for that undergrounding. It is very expensive. So some customers opt to do that, and they pay for that. About 50% of the lines on Maui are undergrounded. Comparison, as I understand it, California is about 33% undergrounded. As I've talked to some community members in Lahaina, they would like to have the lines undergrounded, understandably. These are conversations that we're going to have to continue to have, and solutions we're going to have to figure out. Undergrounding in general is about 5 times more expensive, and on a small island like Maui with only 70,000 customers, that can get very expensive in a place where we have the highest rates in the nation. And we're already facing an economy where many of our people who have lived in Hawaii for a long time can no longer afford to live in Hawaii. So those are the kinds of considerations we have when we make these kinds of decisions, and the kinds of conversations we need to have as a community to make sure that we're doing the right thing and the best thing for that community.
A lot of our newer communities across the state, right, we have it underground versus overhead. It does come at some costs, right, to the ratepayer, to the company, basically to all of us in the state of Hawaii. One of our things is really looking at the cost, but I will say, as an urban planner, and knowing the conditions underground, especially in Hawaii, you hit the water table pretty quickly. Sure. So those are other considerations, more technical considerations that we need to look at.
Get it, but sometimes the cost of doing nothing turns out to be prohibitive also.
I can't help think that you might be better off being at home, and we'd be better off if we could figure out, how to avoid this shutdown. So again,
So we have a team doing an investigation, and many have also seen a video that a resident had taken in that area. In high winds, our lines fell to the ground, and it appears that a fire was sparked in that area.
so it's
the
clearly, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to explain that it started on a grassy area between a sidewalk and a road, and then what we think is it traveled up to the adjacent field that was behind one of the homes, and as we understand it, it turned into about a 3-acre fire, and the fire department was able to contain it and then extinguish it. At 3 p.m., our lines had been out for over 6 hours.
Okay, because they were already de-energized at that time.
De-energized. For 7 a.m., none of our lines in the West Maui area serving customers were energized. This is based on a lot of our system data, so our SCADA data, our smart meters, and discussions with our employees. And so that's part of the information that we looked at this from all angles because it was such a critical fact. And so we made sure that we looked at that very closely, and we're making our information available to the ATF.
News sources have reported that on Monday, August the 7th at 10:47 p.m., a security camera at the Maui Bird Conservation Center caught a bright flash in the woods, and one person at that location stated the power then went out, and the surrounding forest was on fire shortly after that. Was Hawaiian Electric aware of an incident involving its power lines at that time?
I do not know what was known right at that moment. We would have had a fault indicated, but I can't tell you exactly what our personnel knew right in that moment.
Did the personnel know of it from some kind of internal system, or did you only learn of it when the news report came out?
I would need to get back to you to let you know exactly what they would know in that moment.
Okay, because several news sources have reported that data shows a number of line faults in your electric grid on the August the 7th and the early morning of August the 8th. And in the Washington Post, a line fault is indication a power line has come in contact with another object or was knocked down. Does Hawaiian Electric employ any kind of sensors or technologies to detect or display these faults?
For that particular one, I can't tell you specifically what was happening in that moment.
Okay.
Yeah, the protocol allows them the authority to do that.
And do you know why they didn't trigger it when the storm was building up overnight? Why they didn't trigger it sooner than the next morning?
So I need to get back to you on the timing. I was indicating to you that I'm not really sure about the exact timing of when they found out about the red flag warning and when the protocol was started. And so let me get back to you on that.
All right, I appreciate that, and we would like an answer to that, but
Yeah.
the question still remains, you knew the red flag warnings were likely to be coming, but you
Yes.
didn't have the protocols automatically ready to go.
Any of those poles that were not tested and treated, those 2,000-plus-ish poles, if they were not part of that program over that 10-year span, were any of those poles the ones located in the areas that were struck by the fire on the 7th and the 8th?
I don't know the answer to that question right now.
From conditions, right, all the way up to penalties. And like I said, we use our
Mr. Chairman-
process.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not satisfied with the answers. I would like for the witness to provide to the committee in detail the enforcement measures that the commission can impose on a utility that doesn't comply with the regulations.
Certainly, we can get that to the subcommittee.
And Mr. Sunshine is willing to provide that for the committee. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
We just cannot afford this shutdown. This is crazy. This is self-inflicted. This is not how a country as great as the United States of America should be acting. The most important thing is to ensure that the people on the ground there can continue to help.